All right. Hi, I'm Cody. Thanks for joining me today. For any of you who have not met me before, uh, I ran my own studio gallery in Jerome, Arizona. Uh, I actually sold my work in Jerome for 23 years. I started out at the Jerome Artists Cooperative Gallery. I decided to open my own gallery. And so I moved just down the street, just down the block. I set up my own studio gallery. I had to design the interior, build interior walls, set up lighting, etc. And I ran that space for 14 years, I believe I was in that building. And during that time, of course, I was in there 4 or 5 days a week, painting and selling my work. I carried one other artist's work, and he and his wife, who were retired, they were in the gallery 2 to 3 days a week when I wasn't there, so that we were able to be open every day. And that worked out really well. Really appreciated having them there so that I could have some time off. But I never really had any time off because, when you run your own business, you've got to take care of the taxes and ordering equipment and entering shows and emailing clients, and there's just so much that you do behind the scenes that no one ever sees. All the not so fun parts that actually make the business work. But it was also a wonderful experience for me because I got to see what people looked at and what they didn't. Certain paintings were just universally loved by almost everyone who came into the gallery. Other paintings, some of which I loved, were just almost universally ignored. So the first thing I want to talk about is my 6-step thought process. When you're a painter, you're a problem solver. You're going to run into problems. You are taking a two-dimensional surface and you are trying to create this illusion of a three-dimensional reality. And there are inherent problems with that. How do you create a feeling of depth, of perspective? How do you apply the paint in an interesting way so it's going to create some visual noise, some surface tension on the canvas to make that exciting? How are you, or what are you actually trying to say? What is it that you as the artist see here? And how are we going to convey that to our viewers? There are many, many questions to be answered. And it can seem overwhelming sometimes when you're painting. Like, geez, where do I even begin? So that's what the 6-step thought process is designed for. The idea is to know what questions to ask yourself, and just as importantly, in what order, so that you can arrive at solutions that build on each other and you can keep working through the painting, hopefully without having to do any major surgery in the middle of the painting. That's what we're trying to avoid. So I always say that painting is a balance between right and left brain. And you get inspired, you see something, you want to paint it, you start, you're all, you're passionate about it, you're excited. Oh, wow, I'm going to push the color in this, it's going to be awesome. And you start painting. And I don't know if this has happened to you, but it used to happen to me a lot in the beginning. I would see something and either paint it on location, or I'd take a photo, go back to the studio and start painting. And I'd just be so inspired, and I'd be painting away and thinking, oh, this is going to be awesome. And then, 2 hours later, I step back and really look at the painting and realize, it's a giant mess. It's an incoherent, rambling, what the heck was I really trying to say? So that's what the 6 steps is about, is to get you to think first. We kind of like press the pause button on our passion just for a minute. and we do a little left brain analysis. Painting really is a delicate balance between right and left brain. It is one of the most cerebral activities you'll ever do. And we're going to talk about this thought process because that really is the most important thing I can give you. If you have a thought process for solving problems, if you have a series of questions to ask yourself in the right order, that is the most powerful thing I can give you as a teacher. Now, of course, we'll talk about techniques, how to mix color, how to apply paint. We'll talk about drawing. We'll talk about values. We'll talk about design and composition, all of these things, simplification. But those are tools in your toolbox. Of course, you need to learn those things. You need to draw well. You need to be able to paint the color that you want in the value that you need and put it in the right place on the canvas. And you need to express some emotional content. But in order to do that well, you first need to do a little analysis. What is it about the scene that I'm most attracted to? How can I simplify that down to a simpler, more clear message? And once you know that, you can begin to simplify the supporting areas. And a simpler painting is usually a stronger painting. But first, we're going to start talking about materials, because materials do make quite a difference in your end results. Actually, before we do that, let me just show you my humble little studio. And I want to also mention that, some of you may be painting in a smaller space. Maybe you're painting in a spare bedroom, or as long as it's a space where you don't have to clean up every day, where you can leave your easel set up, where you can leave some paint out and it's okay. That's what you need. You need a space where you have a workspace that you can leave set up all the time. Some lights like this that are on a tripod, right? And these are on the back. You've got two controls here. One is for color and one is for brightness. That's what you want. And you can move those. I have two of those. I have one there and I have one here on the other side of the room. Anyway, the lights are handy, and this is my humble little studio. So for those of you who are working in a small space, I just want you to see that I too am working in a small space. This is a very small little garage here, and it is also the bike shop and the storage place. All right, so I've got my titanium white here, ultramarine blue, and my Sievers blue, which is basically a brighter version of cerulean blue. It's a really beautiful cerulean. Then I've got my cadmium yellow lemon, yellow ochre. Here we've got orange, cadmium orange. This is my naphthol red, but you could also use cadmium red light, which I do occasionally swap those out. Mostly I use naphthol these days. That's my warm red. Then I don't use this anymore. Here's the burnt sienna. And then this is my permanent red violet, which is my replacement for alizarin crimson. And that is a very powerful, cool red. Even though the name is violet, it's not violet, it's still red. It's just a cool red. So I've got my warm red and my cool red, and then some dioxazine purple. As far as mediums go, the liquid original, I use this to tone my canvases with before I start painting. And I have a video on that on my YouTube channel. If you just search Cody DeLong Studio on YouTube, I just did a video called Canvas Prep, and it talks about this. So give that a look. The other one that I really like, especially for painting outdoors, because it's just a little thicker than the liquid, that is this Gamblin's Galkid Gel. It's essentially the same thing as liquid, but it's just a little thicker. So when I squeeze it out on my palette outdoors, it's not sliding all around the palette like liquid does. It's very useful outdoors. And I think that's going to do it. Thanks for joining me.